Tansa, hello. I'd like to start by acknowledging where I bring you greetings today, which is on the traditional territory lands of the Anishinaabe, Cree, Oji-Cree, Dakota, and Dene peoples, and the homelands of the Métis Nation of Treaty 1 territory. Siga son Ginipuit Bismoria Biasquo, Equa Mary Lou Mintram. My name is Standing Rainbow Woman, and my English name is Mary Lou Mintram. I'm neither one Cree from the Triassic Cree Nation. And today I am excited for our session with Kyle World, who is an award-winning Arctic sports athlete and coach. Kyle World is from Tinglet of the Sakahadi Han and Dengawit and Yupik. Sorry, Kyle, I think I might have to ask you to do that part. But Kyle currently lives in Juneau, Alaska, and we are pleased to welcome you to this session, carrying on the tradition of Inuit games and Arctic sports.
Mary Lou. Kayak yuchat duasak, shukachadi nakhatsati, shangukedi yadi ayachat. Hello and welcome to everybody joining us. My Tlingit name is Kayak, and I am here to share Arctic sports. This is a sport I've been participating in last 13 years, and so I hope to share these games with you all in hopes of maybe inspiring you to try out these games. I want to acknowledge that I am on Akquan, which is Tlingit land here in Juneau, Alaska, and I'm going to start by sharing my slides. So today's presentation is over Arctic sports, also known as Inuit games or Dene games or Native games or Native Youth Olympics. It goes by many different titles, but for today I'm going to refer to it as Arctic sports. And these are traditional Indigenous games from the north. Again, my name is Kyle Kayak World. On my mother's side, I am Degaton and Yupik from this community of Holy Cross on the Yukon River in Alaska. This is a picture in the top right corner of my mother's side of the family, my grandpa, grandma, and my mom and her siblings on the Yukon River. My grandpa was a boat builder, so they went up and down the Yukon River in the summer to fish camps. My dad's side, I am Tlingit from Southeast Alaska, and that's where I currently live in Southeast. And this is a picture of my dad in the newspaper back in, I believe, the 80s. And he was also an athlete in the sport that I'm about to share today. So there's a tradition in my family that goes back generations. And I'm happy to carry on that tradition of the games. I'm joining from Akquan. The Tlingit name for where I live is Zantkihini. Some know it as Juneau. And we are in the beautiful Tongass rainforest of Southeast Alaska. And I have the honor and privilege of coaching the sport of Native Youth Olympics for Team Juneau. So I have a couple photos of my team here. And the sport I'm about to show you is a pretty amazing sport. I consider it my passion, my love, my drive for these games come from the culture of the games. And so I'm going to share a little bit about the background of these games. Arctic sports are traditional games based on hunting and survival skills that allowed the Indigenous people of Alaska, Canada, Greenland, and Jakarta to thrive in some of the harshest conditions. Our northern cultures, we have the Inuit here in Alaska. They call themselves the Inupiaq or Yupik. And then out on the Aleutian chain, the Angach. All these northern cultures participated in the Arctic sports. And our games draw origins from various different places, but the ones I'm going to show today are coming from the Inuit, Inupiaq, Yupik cultures. And so we can see this cultural group spreads from Greenland, throughout northern Canada, coastal Alaska, and into Siberia, even across Bering Strait. And our games were utilized during the dark, long, cold winter months, where our communities often were spending more hours inside the home. When the weather was too dark, too cold to go out hunting, we went inside and we gathered together. And in those times, we needed a way to not only entertain ourselves, but to stay in shape. And I think we all kind of experienced this through the pandemic and being stuck in quarantine and stuck in our homes and needing a way to stay active. And so our ancestors had that same dilemma, is how do we stay active? How do we stay in shape? Because once hunting season came around again, we needed to be ready. And so they created these games as a way to train their body, to test strength, endurance, balance, agility, focus, all critical skills for surviving, and also just having fun. And so this is, many of the games are meant to be done in a stationary space without a lot of room or a lot of equipment. And this traditional home, we call it in Alaska, the Inuit call it pargi. There are many ways to participate in this sport. In 1961, the sport was organized for the first time in an international event at the World Eskimo Indian Olympics. The history of these games goes back hundreds, if not thousands of years, but quite recently they were organized into a regional event where athletes from Greenland to Alaska could come together and follow the same rules and know how to compete side by side in the games. Since then, many other events have began, including Arctic Winter Games, Native Youth Olympics. Soon, North American Indigenous Games will have, or that's my dream, we'll have Arctic sports as one of the official sports of NAG. It's not quite yet an official sport, but that's the path we're hoping to go. And then traditional games, which is actually an event here in Juneau, Alaska. So many different ways to get involved, and many more events not listed here. So today I'm gonna go over and demonstrate a few games myself, but I wanted to start by sharing an introduction video. This is a short video you can find on YouTube. It's about 6 minutes and it's a beautiful introduction of the games. It was created by Cookienet Tribal Council with a grant from Nike N7. So we're gonna watch this about 6 minute clip here.
When you let people know that the language that they were born and raised with can't be spoken, the songs that they grew up hearing to dance to would no longer be permitted. If essentially the message you received was that everything about you needs to be somebody else, where do you think your self-worth would be?
The first thing is the oath of allegiance to the United States.
We were the ones who had to change.
They're adopting his dress, speech, and ways rapidly.
I felt like a clone.
There was a push.
You had to be strong.
We had a commitment to keeping a language alive, or a culture alive, or a set of values alive. And how are they espoused through our games?
So there was a kind of like this broad cultural exchange.
All of this kind of culminated in clawing back who we are.
The Games of the North, they've been around for hundreds, if not thousands of years.
Our parents, they were living in arguably one of the harshest climates anywhere. And these games reflected some of that harshness.
These were just ways to transfer physical fitness into survival.
Sometimes you had to be strong long. Sometimes you had to be able to run fast. Other times you had to be able to run far.
All those games were developed by life skills, and those skills are passed down from one generation to another.
The games that are played in Western society encapsulate the values of Western society. In the Native Youth Olympics, everyone's pulling together for the same particular purpose, and that's really just survival.
You don't want another hunter to do bad because that means their family or their village won't be fed.
You're helping your fellow competitors.
When hunters went to go hunting, they shared the knowledge of where the resources were, the best ways to get them. And that's hunter success. And we try to carry that and instill that in our games.
Native Youth Olympics started in 1971 here in Anchorage.
And it's another annual competition revolving around the youth, anywhere from first grade through 12th grade. There are about 10 different events you could choose to participate in.
It was held at the city gym downtown Anchorage.
Someone told me in the neighborhood that said they're having these games and there's people from Nome and from Savunga and Gamble, and we should go watch.
It was small and it was all volunteer run. Once we started competing, you know, you're drawn in, you're hooked.
It was insane.
I want to do it justice, the experience.
I've had a couple of records.
On the first Tonight Show was that Johnny Carson.
Would you welcome Reggie Jewell?
I hold the Arctic Winter Games for the 1-foot high kick. I was so hyped.
I feel like for a lot of people, the reason why they don't do it is for reasons not worth acknowledging, like stigma. Take no shame in that. You get offered, like, I got to travel to Canada. What you mean?
It makes me proud. It makes me proud to be Inuit.
For me, even though I'm not Native, like to see people who embrace their culture kind of inspired me to embrace my own.
When other cultures celebrate the games with us, that's wonderful. That's the way it should be. That's the way it's meant to be.
What we want to see happen in the young athletes is the ability to coach one another out in the arena, because that's the delight. That's the value. That's the ancestors coming all the way back before Western contact and transcended into the games we play, so that we're helping others to do their very best and achieve their best.
You know, when I was born, I was given my name, Reggie, after my uncle. But I was also given another name, which is Scissor. And those names carry us for a while. But there comes a time when it becomes your responsibility to pick up that name and carry it forward. We need to own who we are and all of the aspects of our culture that we have and that we share.
So this is a video you can find on YouTube. It is called Native Games Origins, and it's on Cooking That Tribal Council's YouTube page, along with instructional videos for 11 different games that are done within the Native Youth Olympics. And so there's more resources online, but I am going to actually go into teaching maybe 2 to 4 games today. So the first game I want to show is called the Alaskan high kick. And if you are in an appropriate space, you can follow along, or you can watch and try it out later when you have space or the equipment. You don't necessarily need what we traditionally use is a sealskin ball, but you can use anything. It can be a sock rolled up with a string on it, attach it to over a rafter, and there you have something, a kicking target. So Alaskan high kick is the first game I'm going to show you all today. And this is one of the games that was traditionally done in the underground sod homes up north. It's a Inuit and Inupiaq game used by hunters to stay active during the winter months, to stay in shape, and also just to have fun. So behind me, I actually have my equipment here. I have, if you see the ball, is a seal skin ball. It's made by Mary Kakuna from Shishmaref, and I'm going to demonstrate the Alaskan high kick. So one of the things that's really important, just like any other sport, is to warm up, get your body moving, stretch a little bit before you attempt kicking any significant height. And so I'm going to start out at a lower height here, but before I go next to the ball, I'm going to show you step by step how to get in position for the Alaskan high kick. So you can start by sitting on the floor with your legs out, like this. And then placing your hands behind you, bring one leg in. From here, you're going to bring forward whichever arm is on your straight leg side. So that's this arm. And place it on my knee. Next step is I'm going to grab my foot. I can grab my foot from the top or bottom. From here, I'm going to pull in my bent leg right next to me and lift off the ground. And so I'm balancing, if you can see here, on my hand and foot, I'm reaching across my body, reaching for my opposite foot. So it'll be right hand to left foot or vice versa. I'm going to position myself next to the ball. And when I'm ready, I'm going to use my planted foot on the ground to push off the ground and kick the ball. Just like that. In a tournament, you get 3 attempts. I got it on my first try. I would advance to the next height. They go by, in the United States, we go by 4 inches, which is about this high. To speed things up, since we don't have a lot of time here, I'm going to bring it up maybe like 2 feet. Give you another example. So this is a pretty good height. Just keep in mind, I've been doing this sport for about 13 years. It does take some time to train your body to kick higher heights like this. Again, I position myself. If you want to review, legs out, lean back, one leg in, bring forward your arm on your straight leg side, grab your foot, bring your leg in, and then you're ready for kicking. I'm going to give one more height, give you some idea of lower, medium, and a high height. So now this is above my head. This is a pretty high height, even for myself. And I'm going to see if I can kick it today. All right. I do have 3 tries. 3 is kind of the magic number, but let's see if I can get it right away. First try. And that's the Alaskan high kick. That was a successful kick. I did kick it and land. So that's the Alaskan high kick. And I encourage people to try this at home on your own. It's a little bit more tricky than it looks. It's a little bit unnatural holding your foot and kicking, but the whole purpose of these games is to challenge yourself and to work on your physical fitness. So I'm just catching my breath from those few kicks. Since 1961, when the World Eskimoing Olympics was organized, we've been tracking world records. And so I do want to share those and go back to my slides. So the men's record is 2.44 meters and the women's record is 2.11 meters. And we have Elijah Cabin-Boy on the left, men's record holder from Nome, and Autumn Ridley on the right. She is from Anchorage. And so if you can see here, they're all the way extended into a full one-handed handstand. It looks pretty awesome when you can see an athlete go vertical. We call it going vertical when you can get into this handstand position. It took me 4 years of training to get to that point. Some people it takes longer, some people it takes shorter. Some of my athletes I've trained have done it, got to going vertical in less than a year, which is pretty amazing, but it does take lots of training. The next game I'm going to show, I actually have a video for this one. It's called the Scissor broad jump. And so I mentioned these games were based in the environment we lived and the lifestyle we lived. And so this game is actually based on ice hopping. And so ice hopping, if you live up north and in the Arctic, along the Arctic Ocean, or even rivers or lakes, the ocean, lakes and rivers freeze. And in the springtime, we call it breakup season, where the ice chunks break apart. But our hunters had to navigate that environment to go out and hunt. You can find seals, walrus, and other animals out on the sea ice. And so being able to navigate that environment was important, but it could also be deadly. Slipping, falling into the water could be life and death. And so this is Nick Hansen. He's from a northern village here in Alaska called Inuit. And I'll just show, he's a experienced athlete and experienced at ice hopping. So this would never be recommended to do on your own because of how dangerous it is, but I'll show you some videos. There's him ice hopping, and then playing one here. So this is ice hopping. The game that's based on this, I'm going to show the video. So it's called Scissor Broad Jump, and I believe we have a question, but let's watch the video first. The Scissor Broad Jump.
This event is called the Scissor Broad Jump. Stuart's going to start by standing behind a line with both feet either apart or together. It's personal preference of each athlete. From this position, there are 4 steps he will take, trying to go as far as he possibly can with those 4 steps. The first step, he'll jump off of both feet and land on 1 foot. Second step is the scissor step. His back leg must cross behind scissor and land in front of the original position of the foot on the floor. The third step is forward onto 1 foot. The last step, jump, land on both feet, and stay there until we can measure the distance from the start line to the heel that is closest to the line. Once you learn these 4 steps, the event should look like this. Jump, scissor, step, land, and stick it, just like that.
So that is the Scissor Broad Jump. The record, the women's record is about 29.5 feet, I believe, held by Madeline Coe, and the men's record is about 37.5 feet, held by Nick Hansen, which was the athlete in the previous ice hopping videos I showed you. So really spectacular distances that are achieved in those 4 jumps. If you think about 37.5 feet, that rounds out to more than 9 feet for each of those hops. In a tournament, you get 3 tries. Any misstep, any loss of balance is a scratch. Judges are very strict because in a real life situation, ice hopping, you don't always get a second chance. If you lose your balance, you're going to fall in that icy cold water. And sometimes you don't make it out. It's a very dangerous to fall into the ocean. And I'm going to open up for a question here. I see we have a question. Mary Lou, did you want to present that question?
These videos are amazing. Thank you so much. One of the questions that we have is, do you always have to kick with your right leg, or could you switch it up and kick with your left leg?
Good question. You can choose whichever leg, and often, just like we have a dominant hand, we have a dominant kicking leg. So when you try it out, try both legs, try them out, and you might feel more comfortable with one over the other.
Amazing, thank you. Another question was, class wants to know, how many years did it took you to learn these sports?
I started, so I'm 30 years old. I've been in the sport about 13 years. I started when I was 17, and I always wish I started when I was younger. I was exposed to the games through my dad, but I was a very quiet, shy person, and I didn't have the confidence to try them out. I saw the games and I immediately thought, I can't do that. I'm not good enough. But through a lot of encouragement from family and mentors, I tried it out. I went to my first practice. I loved it. And these are games that the skills you can start learning the games right away. You start at very low height and you just slowly work up. And so I mentioned it took me 4 years to do that vertical height where it's way above my head. But everyone progresses at different speeds. Was that our last question?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Next game I'm going to show is the 1 foot high kick. So this is one I can show here. And stop sharing. 1 foot high kick is probably one of the most popular games because it's pretty exciting to see some of the achievements of the heights that people can kick. But again, I'm going to start at a lower height to show you how to do it. And it's always important to start at a low height. So bring the ball down. So first step in the 1 foot high kick is you're going to stand in front of the ball. This is a standing game this time. I'm going to put my arms out and measure the distance. So the string here should be about the distance of my fingers. If I'm too far back, I'm going to fall back once I kick. If I want to be pretty close, I'm going to jump off 2 feet, kick with 1 foot, and the tricky part here is I got to land on my kicking foot. Landing on one leg, keeping balance. Balance is critical in all of our games. So even if you kick it, if you can't balance, you're not quite there. You need to build up that balance. I'm going to bring it up pretty quickly here. I'm going to try another height, which is above my head now. Measure. At this height you can take a running approach, and it's going to help build your momentum up. So I'm going to take a couple steps back. I'm going to run up to the ball, jump off 2, kick with 1, land on my kicking leg. Maintain balance. That is the 1 foot high kick. Do one more height. And before I do this height, which is pretty high up there, I'm going to explain the significance of the 1 foot high kick. So this was a game that was actually used up in the Arctic as a form of sign language or communication across the tundra or sea ice. Long before radios or cell phones, our hunters needed a way to communicate across distances. And the 1 foot high kick was a way to signal, depending on where you come from, a successful or unsuccessful hunt. So if you and your hunting crew caught something and you wanted to let your community know, you'd send your best high kicker back towards the village. And on a clear day, you could be seen from maybe a mile away. If you've ever been in the Arctic, it's flat, plain tundra. And so a high kick signal is very clear, and someone in the village would be on the lookout. If they saw their hunter do the high kick in the distance, they knew what it meant, and they would send out help to that hunting crew. So it was a form of communication. And I'll go ahead and show it again at this height. Balancing 1 foot high kick. I will now show the records, which are pretty spectacular. So the men's record is 2.97 meters by Tim Field from Norvik. It's a northern community here in Alaska. And the women's record is 2.39 meters, held by Melanie Curtis of, so she's a Team Alberta North. Really spectacular heights. Their photos are here. And I want to share a story of one of our athletes. So Tim Field is the current world record holder for the men's 1 foot high kick. But I want to share a story about Jesse Frankson. He is another athlete in the sport, and he was a previous world record holder. And what's so cool about this is Jesse Frankson is from a village called Point Hope, which is marked here on the map. And this is a picture of him out on the Arctic Ocean, subsistence hunting. And when he set the world record for the 1 foot high kick in the early 2000s, he was actually contacted by the Guinness Book of World Records. And they said, hey, you want to come down to LA? We have this individual that wants to set the world record for the highest martial arts kick. And we heard you can kick too. And I think that you will make a great addition to our recorded show with a live audience that will be aired on TV. The other person that Jesse Frankson was kicking against, his name was, I believe, Michael Blanks. And he was a professional martial artist and fitness guru in LA, well known. He had the best trainers, the latest fitness fads, the state-of-the-art equipment and gyms to train in. And Jesse Frankson came from a very small village and lived a traditional lifestyle. And what happened on the show really stunned the producers. He ended up outkicking Michael Blanks and taking the world record for the highest martial arts kick at 9 feet 8 inches. And I think it's such a cool story because it highlights the strength of our people, and that we don't need the latest fitness fads or the fanciest equipment, but our own traditional ways are healthy and keep us in shape. And so I think Jesse Frankson showed that on the world stage, that we are world-class athletes and we have our own traditional training methods that are just as valid or are on the same level as some of these modern day fitness routines. So cool story. You can actually look it up online, Guinness Book of World Records, and he still has the official world record. Tim Field broke our native games record, but it wasn't a Guinness record since Guinness wasn't there to verify it. So Jesse Frankson still holds that world record. Pretty amazing. He's not even a martial artist, but he's an athlete in our Indigenous games. So really cool story I like to highlight. These are heroes in our own culture. And last game, or actually I think we might be out of time. Okay, I just will show a really short video. This is the Knucklehop. This is the game that my dad was an athlete in. And I have a short video and I'll end with this video, then take some questions.
Are you a sucker for punishment? Then the Knucklehop is the sport for you. It's a grueling test of endurance where competitors start up in a push-up position and hop around the gymnasium on closed fists, touching the floor with only their toes and knuckles. To win a gold ulu at the Arctic Winter Games, you'll have to do it for over 50 meters. The sport leaves competitors' hands skinned and bloody. You might even see a referee following the athlete, cleaning the blood behind them. The competitors will literally give their blood, sweat, and tears to the Knucklehop, all in pursuit of game's glory.
So I wanted to end with this video, just to show you the variety of different games that exist within Arctic sports. And they're often a physical challenge, but this particular game is not only physically challenging, but mentally challenging. It's a game of pain endurance. As you see, they're hopping along the floor on their knuckles. And so a lot of our games were about testing our strength, our mental strength, as well as our physical strength. Anyone that lives up north knows some of the harsh conditions we live through, and being able to endure hard times was important. And so they're incorporated in our games. That is the last game I have to share. And I believe there's some questions. Mary Lou, if you wanted to share the questions.
Yes, thank you so much. These are so interesting and so inspiring. We have many people who are giving accolades and saying how great this is. So we have a couple of questions asking the 1 foot high kick question. Why do you have to land on the foot that you kick with? It seems like a natural way to land.
Yeah, for sure. And it takes some coordination, but our games are all about challenging ourselves, challenging our coordination, our balance, and it's intentional to make it more challenging.
The other question was, how high can you kick?
How high can I kick? My personal best for the 1 foot high kick is 8 feet 10 inches, and I'm sorry, I don't know that in meters. And the one thing I really love about this sport, and I want to mention, is the sportsmanship. And so when you go into a competition and you're on the arena floor competing, everybody there is cheering you on, no matter what team. I'm from Team Juneau, but Team Fairbanks or Anchorage or Team Whitehorse from Yukon will all be cheering each other on and sharing advice with each other. Even two athletes going at each other for the gold medal, they're not going at each other, but they're supporting each other, and you'll see them share advice and techniques that will allow their opponent to even excel beyond them, because the point of the games is about reaching your personal best, striving for your best, and along the way you have other athletes there to support you. If you happen to medal, that's kind of a happy side product, but we always stress this is a competition between yourself and achieving your best.
Mm-hmm. A couple of questions people have been asking, which is similar thread, is, are there any secrets to mastering the Alaskan high kick?
There are lots of training techniques, and none of them are secret. Like I mentioned, we all share our techniques. And so I actually do a coach training. If this is something anyone's interested in maybe I'll be able to share that link, but we are hosting a coach training, and we share these techniques of how to kick higher than the Alaskan high kick. We're very open with our techniques, and there's many different ways where you'll jump and jump onto a mat, your foot onto the mat, or jump onto the wall and hold that stance on the wall. So many different techniques that I'm happy and willing to share. Teachers or students or athletes can reach out to me. I'll go ahead and share my email is kyle.worl@gmail.com, KYLE.WORL@gmail.com. And that's a way you can reach out to me, and I can send you resources or a link to that coach training.
Amazing. Thank you. When do the Arctic Games and where do they take place?
The Arctic Winter Games is a biannual event every 2 years. 2020 was supposed to be held in Whitehorse, Yukon, Canada. It was canceled because of COVID. 2022 games have been delayed to 2023, and they're going to be held in Northern Alberta. The name of the community is slipping my mind, but it's usually held every 2 years on the even year, and it switches host cities between Alaska, all the contingents. So there's Alaska, Canada, Greenland, even Yamal, Russia. And so I've been able, this shirt is actually from Greenland when I competed in 2016 Arctic Winter Games in Nuuk, Greenland.
Oh, that's amazing. I do have some questions about the ice jumping. And there was a couple of things is, have you seen anyone fall? Have you fallen yourself?
Yeah, I have not actually, so I live in Southeast Alaska. We're a temperate rainforest. Our ocean doesn't freeze over. So I have not gone out on the ice in that way. I've seen some videos of people falling in, and it can be dangerous, but luckily none of them were in, all of them were able to get out safely. But I do not recommend doing that. People from those communities are used to that environment and being able to jump on the sea ice.
Yeah, for sure. A couple other questions were, do you have a favorite sport that you have, and how many medals do you have?
My favorite sport is Arctic sports. And if you're asking which game, I would say the 2-foot high kick, which is not one I showed today, but it's very similar to the 1-foot high kick, but you jump with both feet kicking in the air. I've been doing the games 13 years. I have about 80 medals from the various different competitions that I've been to.
Amazing. What motivates you to keep practicing?
I love the community around these games. There's a strong community where everybody there is supporting each other. It's not, when we have our events, it's more of a celebration than it is a competition. We're coming together, we're celebrating our games, we're celebrating our culture, and celebrating the resiliency and strength of our people, that our games still exist today after so much that has happened to us, and we're still here, we're strong, and our games are one way to showcase that. So I love being in that environment where we can be ourselves and come together and celebrate.
Thank you. There's so many amazing questions that are coming up. We might not be able to get to everyone, but we are trying our best. So thank you, Kyle. Another question is with regards to the knuckle hopping and the seal hopping. At what age do you start practicing and training and participating?
So some communities, they'll start as early as first grade. We have Junior Native Youth Olympics, which starts at the first grade level. And there's different styles for different ages. So in the first video I showed, you might have seen some of them hopping in the upper push-up position with the hands out. That is the junior style, also the girl style. And it's a kind of an easier intro into the seal hop. As you get older, then you have to switch to boy style, is fingers curled in a lower push-up position, and then adult style, which is the same for men and women, is on your knuckles in a lower push-up position. So as you get older and progress in the games, the style can change. But yeah, you can start pretty much as soon as you start walking. And I've seen 3-4-year-olds try some of these games and do pretty well.
That's amazing. Another question is, did you ever, oh, sorry, it keeps moving up. Did you ever compete with your dad?
I did. So my dad, he kind of semi-retired in the games in the 90s, and I wasn't born until 1991, and maybe his last competition was late 90s. But as when I joined the games, I was 17 and I started competing at the World Eskimo Indian Olympics, which the category is 12 and up. So there's no upper age limit. And I started doing the Knucklehop, and it was a game I stayed away for a while because my dad is actually the world record holder at Arctic Winter Games. And so it was kind of a game I felt like a lot of pressure. I had to do well. And so I didn't want to do it at first, but I eventually started training in it and getting better. And it was, I guess, a dream of mine for my dad to come and compete next to me. And he did one year, and he is in his early 60s now. And this was a few years ago, so he might've been in his late 50s. And he had shoulder surgery a few years earlier. And so my dad is an inspiration because in his late 50s into his 60s now, he's staying in shape. And he was still able to do the knuckle hop, and he gave a really good distance. I think he went about 100 feet, which is pretty amazing. And so that was a special moment for me when I got to compete alongside my dad.
Oh, that sounds so great. I'm going to ask one more question, and then I think we're going to have to come to a close. But this question is coming from grade 7 and 8 students in Oak Crow, wondering how you push through when you feel like giving up or things are getting tough.
I love that question. The knuckle hop is when you start going, you have such adrenaline and everyone's cheering you on. And so the physical pain of your knuckles breaking and bleeding, you don't feel that right away. You just have that adrenaline. But what comes in soon is the muscle fatigue and your muscles burning out. And there's a voice in your head to say, give in, you can't go any further. Your body has spent every ounce of energy. But this is the point of the knuckle hop, is to push that limit, push yourself to go as far as you can. And so when you're on the floor and you start going a really far distance, the entire community that's there, the entire audience, your fellow athletes start erupting and cheering and telling you to keep going, and they'll be banging the floor and they'll be running in front of you, telling you to make that next corner.
I say kinanaskmatnan, which means I appreciate you, I thank you, and thank you to all the teachers who tuned in and the students. Thank you.
And it's cheese. Thank you.